Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing? When did the link come? Just now?
Yeah, just now. I'm just going to make coffee. Hey, 10th. Hello, people in Discord.
Hello, everybody. What's up, 10th man?
Hey, good afternoon.
Who was that? Oh, hey.
Good morning, Discord.
Yeah, George here.
Hey, George.
Georgie, what's happening, Georgie? I'm full of energy today, baby.
You had your coffee, your croissant?
Coffee? I'm at my brother's house. I got espresso. I'm wired.
Huh, I thought you took the train to work. Now it's an espresso.
Hey, we got them, man. We got them with their pants down and everything. They're dead. They're all dead, 10. They're dead and stinking.
Just because Nathan has a show called Shorts doesn't mean we have their pants down.
I mean, we got them with the elevation angles to kill it. You said it yesterday, the Black Swan, the elevation angle. It's like the 1-2 punch. Bada bing, bang, done.
Oh, that's for sure. I don't know what else they have. I mean, they live on top of a protractor with the Haberstein formula.
Exactly.
That's it. That's all it is. It's that zenith distance. You take 90, and you can't get 90 from a curved surface. So you get 90 from an equatorial plane or a flat disk, the flat Earth we live on. And then you say, what's my elevation angle from the horizon, horizontal, flat? You say it's 50 degrees. All right, stars 50 degrees in the sky above my horizon that I'm shooting with the Mariner Sextant. Well, what's 50 minus 90? 40. Okay. 40 times 60 nautical miles. That's your zenith distance on that protractor arc. And it matches exactly to the equatorial plane. The distance from the GP to the GP is exactly that. It's over. It's been over for a long time. How can you have the arc of the sky be 40 degrees and it's exactly the same distance on the equatorial plane from GP to GP?
It's over, baby.
Yeah, it's over.
Always good to point out that the degrees of elevation.
What about them? Go on then, Jorge.
No,
Yeah, all good.
What's all good? You were saying something about degrees of elevation, and then we lost
I
it.
didn't
Oh,
hear
sorry. Oh, sorry. I was saying it's always good to mention the degrees of elevation, not just degrees.
Correct.
See, the problem now is we have defeated them so bad. I mean, really bad. Think about it. all the ballers and anti-flat earthers, they used to love coming here, right? Now they don't want to come here no more. They can say whatever they want. They're boycotting Nathan, or Nathan's mean, or he's disrespectful. That's not why they're not coming here. They're not coming here because they lost. But the problem now is we have supposed people from our own side coming with another feast of nonsense garbage. And we got to put that to death too, unless there's something there.
Well, there's a lot of feast of nonsense, but the one that we're most particular with is them saying that we live on a sphere. Now, if someone wants to come in with other feast of nonsense and say, yeah, thanks for opening my eyes that we don't live on a sphere, but I believe this, and well, let them. Who cares? We're just going to point it out.
Listen, we're all about validation here. Nothing's changed. I said that in the chat the other day on when he re-upped one of his shows. I said, nothing's changed here. When you come with a claim, you damn well better back it up. That's it.
Flat Earth debate is the show. You come here with a claim about the Earth, it's great. You come here and say, I believe this, fine, next.
So the Google upgrade, let's call it, having to pay for this service that you're on now, has actually come with a reasonably significant upgrade, which is to say that as much as I was moaning that I can't adjust your volumes, they have now added a noise suppression feature, and it was on during yesterday's show, and when I listened back on my iPad to yesterday's show, I was pleasantly surprised with how much better you guys actually sounded. Closer together in level, less clicks and pops, generally just a bit better. A bit more muffled, but only by maybe 10% compared to losing almost all background noise and irritating clicks and rattles and various other things. So I just boosted your level by a little bit, and that was it. And now it sounds great, and you guys sound better. So I'm sure you're pleased to hear that when you're listening back to yourselves, you'll hear that you sound better.
Does that mean I can turn on? Hang on. Does that mean I can turn on my fan finally?
Give it a go.
Go on, John. Just having a.
Well, I just thought it was part of our charm that we sounded like shit, but.
It's not gonna. You can't polish a turd. But by the same token, you can get rid of some of the background noise from that turd.
You can't polish a turd, but you can pull out the kernels of corn that's still in it.
You got it.
My goodness, we are getting into the quanta of stuff here.
Quanta's not real. Show me Quanta.
See, he's in Australia. He's on the tree. What are you talking about?
You know what drives me crazy? How many times Nathan had to explain over and over and over again. That was really getting me frustrated. And once he kept bringing it up, and Nathan had to keep explaining it again about, how we're limited in our language. I mean, come on. What's going on here? It gets frustrating. And then I blurt out because I'm so frustrated, and I get yelled at.
Yeah, but it comes with your territory. You're a New Yorker.
It don't bother me none. I know. I mean, you can't have. If you don't have thick skin, you shouldn't be on this show. That's number one. And for all the times I heard when I was just listening, chocolate for F's sake. I got a long way to catch up.
I had to leave early yesterday. I hear Cleanser came on.
Yeah, it did turn out to be
Cleanser's a masturbator.
It ended up being a long show again, and I had no intention of that. I wanted it to be a really short show today, so just so you're prepared.
You said that. He said that this was going to be a really short after show, and not 30 seconds later, somebody started jumping on him about ether. No kidding.
Yeah, but by then I'd paid for, the subscription to Google, and when I said that it's going to be a short after show, it's because I was having umpteen technical issues. So I thought, oh no, if this gets worse, I'll just round out. And the technical issues were compounded by the fact that the internet was stopping working intermittently, which I didn't realise was happening. So It's like a plane that's, that's what my computer is. It's that plane that's had a major fault, which it has. It's gone back to the service guy, and he's put sticky tape on all all the things that are broken. It's slowly falling apart again. There we go.
So what was the highlight of the long show yesterday?
A lot of decent.
Diaslow white knighting.
No, Dyslow did a reasonable job of going through his beliefs in ether, which are useful to combat ether. So, I'm very grateful to him, which it, even to a certain extent, Synclenser, irritating though it may be, he thinks he's being clever when he reverses the position to our rebuttal and poses our rebuttal back to us like it's a defense of the original position. Now, when I caught him out on it, he almost had Brian on it. But I caught it, jumped in and was like, right, so you can't derive a wave from a knock. You can derive a frequency and draw lines between them and call it a wave. But it's not a wave. That was his position that he put to us. Why? Because the smug little prick really wants Brian to start arguing how it is a wave, and he almost did. So
Let me ask you a question, Nathan, real fast. When he was talking about that, isn't that the same analogy that AI put with the drill? Is that the same thing?
It is very similar.
Okay.
But he's putting it to us, isn't he, as an ether believer? So he thought...
Yeah, the idiot.
Not the idiot. No. He's trying to be smart. He's trying to be clever, right? If you can get away with that ruse, if you can pull it off, it's genius, because your opponent will start putting your position to you. Yeah, it is a wave when you knock 3 times and derive a wave function from it. Yeah, that's us saying, yeah, it is. Yeah, that's definitely a wave. Well, that's what he wants.
Go ahead, Tent. Hold on. I know Tent has got to say something about that knock 3 times.
Well, it reminds me of a Tony Orlando song, I think. But go on, John.
I was going to say it's a lot like that. Well, nobody's claiming the Earth's curving.
Exactly.
Yeah, get you to start
So
repositioning their argument back to them, and it's almost as good as you're arguing for them. So yeah, I know Synclenser's game. Synclenser's little games. I've pegged all of them now.
All right. So, I mean, this is foolish because I didn't listen to it. I was gone. But the whole point is, I'm just imagining in my mind that someone knocking 3 times, and as silly as it sounds, someone afar off waving their hand 3 times. What's he trying to say?
He was trying to make our example back to us and say that if I knock and then knock again, you can plot that on a graph and call it a probability distribution, but it's not a wave, he was saying, right?
Okay.
So he's saying that so that, and he almost succeeded, Brian starts telling him that it is a wave because it's derivative of a wave function mathematically, and you can call that a wave like they've called wavelength a wave in physicality. Well, he's angling to get Brian. I'm nearly there. He's angling to get Brian to pose the point back to him when Brian's on the side opposing the notion that a mathematical reification of wave function is a physical wave. Well, he was halfway to getting Brian to do that.
But the reason I said pause is because that was a crucial point in me understanding. So because mathematically they speak of it that way, Brian was coming to say, hey, it's mathematically, we call it this. And that was the trick to get Brian to say that.
Yeah, he wants Brian to describe it like the ether believers are describing when they reify a wave from the mathematical derivation of, in this instance, a knocking door. Well, a knocking door's not a wave, but you can take the maths and derive it. If he denies that and puts it to us, we're suddenly defending ether as having a claim that it will be a wave. Not smart, by
So basically, when you say that's a mathematical description, but it's not saying it's a wave, he was going to twist those words to get Brian to say it, and then the audience to be confused and all that.
I'm going to say yes, knowing Synclenser and being way ahead of him and stopping him. But by stopping him, that means that, no, you can't actually say that was the case because it didn't play out. I will say that was going to be the case, and I stopped it. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Refracted Curvature, Chocolate Sane, Brian's Logic, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Vinny, get the bats, Vinny.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good
I'm gonna
morning.
have to make a what's the word? It's not a retraction, but it's a mild change of direction. Grit my teeth while I say this. So, in my humble opinion, the flow of money in this show should be one direction, my direction, from YouTube. And unfortunately, Google, YouTube, however you want to bundle them together, have forced me to pay for Google Meet. So it's only $8, but it really, really grinds my gears to have to give them money. It's like giving your boss money. Not that they're my boss, but they are, kind of. But could you imagine you go to get your paycheck and your boss pickpockets you for a few quid? That's how it feels. I just wanted to get that out of my system.
Don't worry about it, Nathan. It's only the new company store policy.
Yep, you'll be paying us for the milk in your coffee. Anyway, right, I just want to get that out of the way. Moan about it. It's not like it's even a big deal. The amount of people, from one perspective, I shouldn't say it because the amount of contributions I get massively exceeds that small amount of money I'm having to give to Google. It's not really about the amount of money. Yeah, it's not going to cripple me. Although I am very poor, please smash the super chat. It's more about the principle of giving the money back, putting it that way in the river. Anyway, any evidence of Earth, Kev?
Just think about it like you're one of the poor schmoes that have to put gas in your car to actually get to work. Sometimes you got to spend money to make money. That's, think of it like that.
It's just one of those things I like to be able to say. So occasionally people will say, you've only got 24,000 subscribers because you've bought them all. And I go, no, that river only flows one way. Yeah, I'm not going to be paying out for that. I want the people who come and watch my adverts and support me. That's what it's for. It's not so I can pay a third party. Certainly not pay Google. So when you're like, I can't really make that statement anymore because this river doesn't flow one way. The $8 of it's going back the other way up the river. Anyway, it's such a small point to moan about.
You got 24,000 subscribers with an act of Congress going against you. Well done.
Oh, thank you. That does make me feel
Should
a little
be a
bit better.
million.
It should. But I will mention that just to round this out, just so it is a point in regards to subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed already, it's to say don't subscribe to me on more than one account because it balls up my statistics. Now, don't get me wrong, if you've got 2 active accounts, like I've got 2 active channels and I've got different subscriptions on both, but I actively use both to both broadcast and watch, depending on the circumstances. So typically I'll use my second channel to view on my iPhone because that's the one that's logged into it, which makes it a more sort of when I'm out and about and I want to watch something on YouTube. If you're doing something and you've got an hour to kill, you might want to watch a video, but I tend to pick from my second lot of subscriptions. That's fine. But what I don't want is people to go, oh, look, he's at 24,999. I'll just go to my other account or make a new account to subscribe to him. Don't do that because it's pointless. I only want engagement from people who subscribe. So subscribe if you've not done so already in the intro. That's the reason for that. Anyway, I'm going off the beaten track before we've even done housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No,
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, 24,000 subscribers.
Well, if it's formally known, doesn't that mean it's now gone?
Nobody
you
claims
mean?
nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. End quote. Tim Osman. Nobody's claiming we'll see physical geometry. End quote. Planar walk. Nobody's claiming the horizon is geometric. End quote. AB Science. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. End quote. The rumpus. So yeah, formerly known as Earth curve.
The geometric horizon is not the horizon you would expect to see. End quote. Kosho.
FYI, the geometric horizon's Earth curve.
So the people who believe in the globe don't want us to bring this part of the globe up because they can't defend it?
Well, that's globe heretics that can't defend it and will tell us that you and your reference frames are ruined in regards to the next housekeeping question. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Wait a second. Didn't Chocolate read something where a lady said it all starts at the horizon?
For a globe
Isn't the
believer,
horizon
it
Earth
does.
curve?
I was going to
Yes.
ask if they don't expect to see the geometric horizon, then why did they still bring back the story of boats going over it?
Because they were in pain, cognitive dissonance. Their actual claim has
Can I
been
ask a question
debunked.
to the panel?
Go ahead.
Wasn't all of this debunked by Einstein in 1915?
Yeah, I was explaining that to my wife yesterday. And yes, that's correct. She was asking the importance of the ether discussion.
Once the gravity is not a force anymore, I mean, the whole model implodes. You don't have spheres, you don't have mass attracting mass, you don't have center of mass, you have nothing of that.
That's right, and I think they figured that out 100 years ago. And as a consequence, they've started telling people about parallel universes and such like. Eventually, it's got to go back to flat because it is. Hey, Arthur.
What were you explaining to your wife?
The importance of the discussion in regards to the consequences with Einstein 100 years ago. So she's like, well, she's overheard me saying this is an important subject. I'm like, well, here's where the crossover takes place with Einsteinian mathematics and bending space-time. Anyway, let's get through housekeeping. We can expand this out shortly. Hey, Arthur, by the way.
Hey, hello.
Good to have you. So, axial rotation, any evidence thereof?
We're going to need
No.
R for that.
I don't expect to see any.
That's right, Jorge, you'll need R for that. Any evidence of the R value?
Saturn
No,
radius?
Black Swan disproved it.
It can only be derived from the celestial angles on a flat plane.
You are friendly, Flurf and Turf?
I am.
Good to have you. What about
Hold on,
eels?
Nathan. You got to be careful when you ask that question now, because they could be a friendly, but not a friendly.
Well, when you have a name like Flurf and Turf, you're a pretty good sod.
No. I believe in the flat Earth,
Very good.
100%.
Don't make you a friendly. That's what Neil's saying.
Exactly. You could come and say ether exists.
Anyway,
Pardon me?
Is it
Eels-
really is
Oh,
it
one
a
second.
point of I agree the Earth is flat?
No, I don't agree. I believe it. I live by one of the Great Lakes. All you see is flat horizon everywhere.
How did you just phrase
Well,
that?
no-
I don't agree. I believe it. Did you say?
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, I
My
don't
own
like
eyes.
that belief thing.
Oh, we're going to nitpick you to death now.
Yeah, I know. What's going on? Ills G, how you doing? You a friendly?
Yes, he is. Hey,
Okay.
Elise.
Any
Well,
evidence?
the only reason I bring it up, and it is pedantic, but belief is agree, disagree.
Do you know the Earth is flat?
I don't know why they're
Okay,
doing
guys,
this to you.
take-
I don't know why they're
take
nitpicking you and negging you like this, Flurf and Turf. I don't know, but feel free to respond if you want to.
I don't know why they're
I'm
doing
a
it.
grown man.
Oh, they're not really coming through, Nathan. They're breaking up.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop them from talking constantly when I'm trying to, talk to the guy in Discord, but none of them will leave a gap. So I'm having to cut them off.
I'm trying to defend the guy here.
He's not.
It's okay.
He's there. He's here. He doesn't need you to talk for him. All of you, 4 people have talked for him. So far, he's got 3
I'm not
words. I'm a
talking
grown
for
man
him.
out.
I'm not talking for him. I'm talking against Neil.
Okay.
Hold on. All I'm trying to say is you could say you're a friendly, and then all of a sudden you're throwing ether at us. That's all I meant. Forget me.
It's hard
I'm
to.
just here to listen to everybody.
Okay,
I
great.
like to gather information.
Oh, you're here for intel? Oh, yeah. For who?
I'm always here for intel. Intel's always the best.
I'm just joking. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
93 million miles away.
Who's 3
You'll need
million
half of
miles
that.
away? Not
Hold
the
on, you'll
sun.
need half of
How
that.
did you come to that conclusion? Did you measure it? Or did you calculate it? Or did you just read a number that was handed to you?
I was taught it in school, okay? Just like they taught me 2 + 2 is 4, they taught me that the sun was 93. Well, back then it was 91 million miles away. So maybe we moved away 2 million miles.
Wasn't it like in the
Right, so
60s?
you were
it was
handed
like
a number
68
then.
miles a million?
Say again, Flurf and Turf.
Wasn't it like 68 million miles back in like the early 1900s?
Right. Jaron did a really good expose on this. It's changed multiple times. At the moment, the scaling value is derived from Venus being assumed to have the same radius value as Earth is assumed to have, and then the scaling values are taken from there. But it's just a scale, so you can increase it, decrease it, whatever you like. Give a double radius value, or 2x the radius value of Earth when you superimpose it on Venus, and you've changed all of those values. But they'll all slide up and down incrementally. So yeah, you can change it to whatever you like, within reason.
Nathan, quick question. This is just off topic entirely, but are you I'm trying to figure out where your accent's from. You're English, but what part of England you from?
I'm from Birmingham originally. However, I went and trained as an actor in Stratford upon Avon. Therefore, I'm a bit less brummy.
For Birmingham, you sound reasonably calm and not screaming every so often.
Are you joking? You taking the mick?
The show's still early.
Yeah.
You ever been there?
You seem composed comparatively from every Birmingham person I've met.
That is
who
not a
seems to have
compliment. You're comparatively composed compared to a brummie is not a compliment.
Well, whatever. Take as you wish.
I will. I'm only messing with you. Thank you.
I know.
Isn't that like being the smartest kid in special ed?
Yeah,
Is that the
exactly.
kind of compliment
Yeah, there
that
you go.
was?
Nathan, he's just giving you a scaling value. That's all.
That's it.
But yeah, no, I just heard your accent and I was like, where the hell are you from? Because I like doing that with people.
Leamington Spa currently. They're quite posh around here as well, actually.
The posh lot. Only way is that was like only way is Essex type thing going on, which it was. But anyway, cheers.
Trained actor and a bit of a private school education. That's why. Anyway, any scientific evidence of gravity?
What is it?
I feign no hypothesis.
I'll be a no
Says the
then.
guy.
And Einstein
Yeah.
too. I mean, did Einstein claim a hypothesis?
Not flame.
I don't think so.
Feign. Feign.
Oh, okay.
No, he did not.
But still,
No.
exactly.
I mean, he's got what he calls his theory, but that's only a hijacking of the idea of science. It's not actually got any science to back it. It's not a scientific theory. It's maths.
Right. Mathematical theory, whatever that means.
In either event, there's no cause and effect relationships established in physical nature. Well, any viable hypotheses whatsoever from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
They're going to need R for that.
They feign no hypothesis.
Well, I need R for it if they did. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Well, ask
Negative.
McToon.
Without a horizontal plane, you cannot have an elevation angle.
Nathan, did anyone ever from the baller side or heliocentric side ever answer the question of what they're applying the Habersign formula to?
No. Do you want to ask that question again? We might slip that into housekeeping. I kind of brushed past it after you suggested it on that show. Ask the question.
Well, we've got the needing, straight lines to get an angle. Elevation angle is utilizing a baseline. What do, since the Habersign formula is a transformative equation, what are you applying that equation to and why?
Or
if you're a heliocentrist.
Or what is it being transformed to a globe from? Furthermore, if the Earth is a sphere, why would you need to apply a transformative equation to make it spherical? You don't apply transformative equations to cubes to make them into a cube. There's no need, it's already a cube. So if Earth's already a sphere, why need a transformative equation to make it spherical?
Hey, you're just getting hung up on details.
I don't want to...
There is a question in there, though. You hear it, right?
What are you applying the Habersign formula to? I'm going to ask John. A flat plane. Right. What are they transforming from and to? From a flat plane to a sphere. Where are the measurements from? From a flat plane. The globe model's dependent on measuring a flat plane.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas Young told us that, isn't it? All the measurements are made on a flat plane.
That's in regards to refraction, but yeah.
Yeah, my question to that would be, what flat plane? I thought we lived on a sphere. Mr. Young.
So what are you applying the Habersign formula to, globe believers?
Well, it had to start flat.
It needs to be worked on in terms of turning it into that sort of self-contained, almost rhetorical housekeeping question. They've got a certain style to them. But if you remind me, I will just put it as an open-ended question at the end of each housekeeping session for now. I mean, it needs a bit of refinement. But
and a link to a McToon's video that short made.
Yeah, certainly
Definitely.
I don't know how he ended up having this pegged to him. I know he was the one that was the most vocal about his challenge, but realistically, Protothad should have it attached to him. But it's ended up being McToon. Maybe it's just because he's that much louder. I don't know. Is McToon that verbal? I don't watch McToon.
We wouldn't know. They only came on the show one time to give us awards.
I don't really watch him either, but that clip was amazing. Like, amazing.
Oh, you're talking about a clip that's about 2 months old that I noticed you'd commented on. You get more suggestions of old videos when you remember, which Arwin is. Become a member today. And you've obviously watched one of those clips and, wow, a great video. Yeah, there was 2 months ago before it died on its ass like every other video I make.
Yeah, you're just too busy. You're too busy, putting them out. And then it just you're on the road. You're just dropping all these great videos. You lose track. And then afterwards, wait, whoa, that actually happened? That's awesome.
That's mainly down to Mitch, though. I think it was Mitch that he was talking to or referring to. I can't remember. Mitch knows more about the background to it because I swiped it from him.
Was it with... Yeah, it was with him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, well done.
Nathan, can you go to Master D and show that slide I just put there?
Okay, done.
Yeah, so this is the measurement. And there's your horizontal. Now, what was the question again, refractive curvature? On the Habersign?
Because after they take this measurement that you're having Nathan show, they apply the Habersign formula to get their spherical triangles and things of that nature. What are they applying the Habersign formula to in this depiction?
The flat plane that's being measured.
So for the audience, there's the sun. There's the vertical of the sun giving its GP over the flat plane. There's the person and his or her vertical. And there is the angle, elevation angle measurement from the flat plane or ocean surface once you get your eyes on the water. And there's your vertex. So this works. This is nice. Now, imagine a protractor with the arc. And that's what they're trying to say is you live on that arc part where the lines meet up on the protractor. But here's a problem. You see OZ? That's zenith distance. And do you see OEL? That's elevation angle. Now, that zenith distance is the same as that baseline from GP of the person to GP of the sun. It's the exact same distance on the flat plane. It's ball game over.
Yes. So when we started off this process, the first response was to have them challenge us to use their pre-acquired flat Earth elevation angles and ask us how they work on a flat Earth.
And then they moved to the flat Earth celestial sphere model to claim that Earth was a sphere from that model. So they like double stamped it.
It's only taken 100 years before this really should have happened. It should have happened the minute Einstein was debunked. That should have been the end. And instead it's been a long, drawn-out attempt to keep heliocentrism prevalent in the mind's eye of the Western world and expand it out to some of the Eastern world. Seems pretty untenable, though, at this stage. With plausible deniability, though. Oh, well, it's just a model. It's just a philosophy. It's just a way of perceiving the way the world could work. We don't actually live on a model. All of our arguments against the notion of being on a sphere, with the reification fallacy being our argumentation against it, could be used by whoever's punting it as a defence.
And I think it would be a fair defense. I don't think there's a bunch of people at the, in academia that know it's a flat plane and then they're just trying to trick people. I think that they are actually ignorant of this.
I agree.
However, given the general censorship that we experience in this little subdivided community of anti-flat earth heretics and flat earthers, it's not like they want this to trickle out to the rest of the Western world. I don't think.
But John, I could agree with you, right? But my cousin's a school teacher, and when I bring things to her, they resist. Now, I believe that that's something that, because you're so indoctrinated at such a young age, you immediately fight against anyone who challenges it.
Let's just do a quick shout out to Divergent Droid for being an absolutely fantastic moderator. Like the best moderator I've had in my entire YouTube career. Shout out to you, sir. You're superb.
I second that.
Divergent Droid is ace.
He is. He's amazing, isn't he?
Nathan, if you can follow up, I second the motion, the motion for Divergent Droid, by the way.
Not only that, they accuse him of being a robot, that he's not a real person. That's hysterical.
He's definitely a real person.
I got
Or
two
the
more.
best human emulation has ever been made.
Yeah, especially when it came on the show. That was pretty clever. How did he become so human?
What you need, it's like a little surprise, because if you see his little, what is it, Android, as in Google Android, avatar, and see him spamming "Welcome to Flat Earth Debate" and stuff, it would be reasonable to assume that he's a like Nightbot, or I don't actually know how to use those pieces of software, but I've seen them in other people's live streams. You just turn on something called Nightbot or something like that, and then it's programmed to react to certain things that get typed in, and tell people off if they swear and such. Well, that's good, right? But also irritating. I don't necessarily like that, because damn well it's not a real person. So to have somebody that appears to be that, you're like, oh, familiar. They've got a bot in there saying hello. Oh, that's nice. But it's not a bot. It's a real guy who will rip you a new one and knows the arguments. So, yeah, shout out to you.
Nathan, just to finish up the Habersign, there's 2 more slides to follow that first one.
I'm on the one that's blue background, observer, zenith,
Yeah.
dome.
So here you have a horizontal coordinate system. You can see it's a horizontal coordinate system. You can see the angle is an elevation angle up from the horizon there. And it's pretty clear. 2 straight lines meeting where the observer is, the vertex. You got the zenith, the vertical of the observer, and then the star would be vertically over the Earth somewhere as well. Now, get this image in your mind, and let's go to the next slide. And here we have the star vertically over the Earth, 90 degrees. The vertical of the observer in the red, 90 degrees. And then the angle measurement, which could only happen from a baseline that's straight, not curving. And they even put 90 here, even though they take liberty with their art to show a curve on that yellow arrow, which isn't happening, can't happen, but you can't get an elevation angle from a curved baseline. And then they need to somehow make this look like we live on a globe. So when you take 90, the complement angle, and 1 degree is 60 nautical miles, that leaves you that co-altitude, that zenith distance, 1,800 nautical miles is your zenith distance. So the bottom of the image where the person is to where the sun is directly over the Earth, that's 1,800 nautical miles. And you get that from that top co-altitude, the zenith distance. But if you go back 1 slide, they would have you think that's on this arc, right? And if you go back 1 more slide, the original one I showed, this is before they make you think you live on a globe.
However, all of them have got 90s, 90 degree here, 90 degree here on the first slide. Second slide, 90 degree here at the observer. Now, unfortunately, they've not drawn the GP of the star, but that's what you're trying to achieve. 90 degrees for the triangle that's being formed. Then you move over to the one that's come from a globe-believing book, and it's still marked. There it is, 90 degrees. So why is this yellowish line bending? That's not going to give you 90 degrees. Why is the co-altitude line bending? No, no, no. No, no, no. This is a square. It's got 90 degrees. It's not going to be sat on a bend. That's not going to work. It works like this, off a flat plane, with angles. That's how it works.
Can I give some bit of correction on the Habersign? What the Habersign does is it converts from the Universal Transverse Mercator map. Now, I'm going to point out a contradiction. The 10th has already been pointed out in a minute, but I don't know if it was as obvious. So what they do is they take the Universal Transverse Mercator map, because that is a grid map, but it's a grid map using latitude and longitude lines. So each one of those lines on the Universal Transverse Mercator is a latitude or longitude line. So what they're doing is they're transforming the distance that is on the Universal Transverse Mercator into its correct distance, statute mile distance, its correct distance, right, north to south along the longitude lines, because it's the longitude lines that have to change within that premise, because The latitude lines can stay pretty much where they are, I think. But the longitude lines, because all our great circle routes are longitudinal distances. Because they're all, like, you put great circle routes onto a piece of paper and you'll have straight lines, right? So what they're doing is they're making a correction, but the mathematical correction they're making for the distance, let's just say from the North United States to the South United States, that will have the R value added in, so it gives a curved distance. So that's how they go from, let's just say, a degree measurement, giving them a nautical mile measurement, to having a curve that, like, we know where to get the curve from. It's from hijacking the center of the protractor or the base of the protractor and calling it the center of that globe. But then that's how that nautical mile measurement ends up being on the curve of the globe, and it's along the longitude lines, and that's how they get to make the claim that they have the correct distances on the globe due to the Haber sign. But there's two problems. Firstly, the universal transverse Mercator. How are the actual nautical mile measurements placed onto that? That's the first thing you should find out. Because the problem is the real problem is that there's a map being used that doesn't have the land masses in the correct locations. So that's the first problem that's there. So you're taking a nautical mile measurement with degrees from, let's say, the deck of a ship with a marine sextant. You have, let's just say, a 45 degree, which will give you 2,700 nautical miles of a radius, a nautical mile distance. The horizontal distance becomes the radius of a circle of equal latitude. But how do you then place that onto the universal transverse Mercator and then transform that into a statute mile distance along the longitude lines of a globe? There's something going on in between that point from the measurement, right, which is, because their distance along the surface of their globe has to match the distance that's measured by the mariner with the sextant, because the conversion will have to be a 1.1508 conversion from nautical to statute mile. So it has to match that. So there's something going on with the universal transverse Mercator where whatever way they plot it onto that, because of the land masses being in different locations from where they really are, then supposedly, then that means that when they're changing it, that whatever it does, it mutates it for some reason. Now I don't know, what way it works, how it mutates it. That's something I'll have to find out. I didn't look into that. Well, but there is a mutation going on with the universal transverse Mercator, and it's the unmutation when they unmutate that distance, but then hijack it and put it on the surface of the sphere. So they're starting off with a correct nautical mile distance, and they're ending up with a correct statute mile distance, but there's a load of nonsense happening in between. And that's how they get to make their claim along the surface of the sphere. And obviously the Haber sign formula has the R value. Could you, I don't know, but could you use the Haber sign formula and just not use the R value? I don't know. I haven't looked. That might be a stupid question.
Well, that might be a problem of the star's geometry. You know what I'm saying? But if you want, go back and watch Ruhiff perform celestial navigation. He's very clear about what he does. But he's...
We lost you, John.
We lost a little bit of you, John. Can you say that again?
But the words he's using and the pictures he's showing aren't matching up, because he's using the celestial sphere model, but then he'll show the Earth flying around the sun with a red line through it, and they'll say that's what they're using, you know. But that's not. But right after he applies the Haber sign formula, then he's got circles of equal altitude on a sphere. That's where the trick is being done.
Well, technically, he doesn't have circles of equal altitude on a sphere. Let me point out something he's doing. He's starting off with 7/6R for a start. That's what he's claiming. He's claiming he's using 7/6R at the start, but he's not actually. He's using a horizontal plane. But he's claiming to use 7/6R. So let me just point out a couple of things. If he's claiming 7/6R, that means he can't use a 3959 radius when he's doing the haverside. He has to use a 4,618.83 mile radius, statute mile radius. Right. Which means 60 nautical miles per degree won't work. Yeah, 60 69 statute miles per degree won't work when he's claiming that. So he's destroyed his own argument with that claim at the start. But he's not using 7/6R because that he's not using. In reality, he's using a horizontal plane. Because by claiming he's using 7/6R, it means that he's saying he's not using a tangent plane. But he is using a tangent plane. They all have to use a tangent plane. It's official they use a tangent plane, and that's how they move it from the tangent plane down to the center of the globe, which is only the baseline of a protractor. It's all hijacking, backwards hijacking, and then they claim that but that he can't put a distance on the surface of his globe if he's not claiming 7/6R. That's the first problem. Secondly, he's using a horizontal plane, not 7/6R. So what he claimed and what he did are two different things.
Right, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the Haversine formula is bending that distance, and you said it too, that 69 to 60. Right, yeah, that's how they're bending the baseline.
Yes, but the problem he has is that because he claimed to be using 7/6R, it means not only is he bending the baseline, but it also means that he can't have 60 nautical miles, 60 statute miles per degree, or 69, sorry, statute miles per degree. With 7/6R, the least you're going to have is 80.5 statute miles per degree, which completely throws all that. There is, like, he'd have to then, because he contradicts himself, because if he's using 7/6R, he can't use the Haversine formula and use 3959 if he's just measured on a 7/6R sphere, which he didn't, because you can't do it because it doesn't matter because it's still a curved baseline, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that is the problem, that they're using a curved baseline. But what I'm saying is he used a flat baseline up to that point. And that is the point where he introduced the curved baseline. I want to know if he's cognitively aware of that is the point at which he bends his baseline or not.
None of this matters.
He didn't. He never bent his baseline.
None of this matters. You know why? Sorry. Nathan, can you show the year of the sex? Can you show the year of the Sexton slide, please?
Yeah, just give me a sec. Yep.
All right. Sexton is an angle measuring device. No one disagrees. An angle is two straight lines meeting at a common point called a vertex. Nobody disagrees. This is an image of a horizon at sea. You see the 90, you see the protractor, you see the section, you need the straight angle of 180. There is no tangent plane. That's just in their drawings. This is what's happening. They say this is at the center of the Earth when it's really at the surface. And then they draw a circle and take a tangent plane and say, we're measuring from here, when all their books say, no, you're measuring from the center. So you see, they got a few problems. The measurement's never done from the surface. The measurement on all the books are derived from the center of the Earth. Well, what's the center of the Earth to them? Well, it's an equatorial plane, a flat surface that you're seeing on the image here, which is actually where we are. They superimpose this to the center, and then they make a circle, and then they say, now get a tangent plane and let sunlight come in parallel, and we could have a corresponding angle match as long as we carry a suitcase with a tangent plane that can fold out whenever we want to do it. But in reality, you're just doing it over a flat plane all the time. The rest of the stuff is nonsense.
Yeah, the problem that what people don't understand, when they get to the point of a circle of equal altitude, that's when they have to use a curved radius, which means that the surface, the amount of land, now curved radii do not exist in reality, right? Number one. Number two, even within that nonsense, right, the amount of land within one circle of equal altitude placed onto the surface, let's say that circle placed onto the surface of a sphere, right? What will happen is the land on the inside the circle will not match the circle. So you don't have matching distances, matching coordinates, because it's not going to match. None of it actually matches. That's the problem. Because to put a circle of equal altitude, especially with some of the bigger ones, onto the sphere means or even some of the smaller ones, you've got to change the amount of surface area within the circle of equal altitude. When you put that onto a sphere, depending on the size of the circle, you will change the ratio of amount of surface area within that circle will change, because then you go from having a flat circle, horizontal circle, to having a dome, which changes the whole. Like, they think they can just throw that out there and get away with it. No, mathematically the two don't match, and they can't match. You've measured a radius for a circle of equal altitude, and then you're making the circle smaller.
Brian, what you're pointing out is one of 100, if not more, ways to destroy their lie. No doubt what you say is true. But they are telling us it needs to be subtracted from what number?
90.
90.
It's over right there. Unless 90 means curved, unless 90 doesn't mean right angle anymore, it's over right there. We have shown what the circle of equal altitude is. And if you got more than 1, 2, 3 stars, we even have pictures of it. Let me just put one up real quick here. And they describe it the way it actually is done. Okay, it's on there. So here's, by measuring the angles to 3 known stars, an observer knows its location. Do you see any curved surface here, or do you see 3 90s?
3 90s.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if they want to say, I could put a circle of equal altitude on the globe. They show pictures of it, but this is how it has to happen. You can't do this and have the distances match. It's another part of the lie that you're addressing, and I'm glad you do and have, because the chord length won't be the same as the arc length. And no one's going to go through the chord anyway. No one is aiming their sextant with some infrared horizon mirror or some kind of technology that goes through the surface of the ocean. You're aiming at the one horizon that we got. Horizontal, elevation angle. That year of the sextant picture says it all. This is the flat plane, the only flat plane, and this is an elevation angle. Just because they do drawings and say, there's one of these at the center, there's one of these at the sensible horizon, there's one of these at the geodetic horizon, it doesn't matter. There's only one of these, and it's our Earth that we live on.
Yeah, but I still must make the point that you cannot have a circle of equal altitude on the globe. They will not translate. You can't translate a circle with a distance in between on a surface onto the globe. It doesn't work. And I just want the audience to know that there is an argument on the way coming from us that we haven't spoke about publicly. That's going to absolutely destroy the globe concerning the circles of equal altitude.
I'm not disagreeing with you. You know how back and forth you and I love to go. I want 1 million knives going into this lie that has been put upon humanity. I want every argument, but go to the basic. Why is it impossible to live on the globe? Because you can't get a 90. It's over right there. Now let's have fun and destroy all the ways they try to dance around it. I'm okay with that.
Well, I can't remember who it was that was saying that it's good to have. I think it was Adam. Hello, Adam, by the way. Was it Adam that just joined? I'm losing track of who's just joined. I think it was Adam. He was saying it's good to have your your claims challenged because it strengthens them. So, for example, when McToon comes along and says, how do you use these as flat Earth elevation angle measurements on a flat Earth? We point out that they're flat Earth elevation angle measurements. So it strengthens the argument.
I thought I said that.
You did.
No, or Arwen probably said it 10 years ago.
Well, Brian said it a couple of weeks ago, most importantly, but
Darn it, I couldn't get my finger on a mute button fast enough to say that, Nathan. Yeah, it was Brian.
I've got one more housekeeping question. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Only in the vacuum of space.
Sorry, that took a few seconds to process. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core, kind of suggestive, then very specific, at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Response, in the vacuum of space, did you say?
Well, you didn't do the vacuum of space either, but that's why I said that.
Oh, that's why it didn't make sense, because it was pointing out that we had one more housekeeping question than the one more I just gave. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
You'd have a problem, and then you'd probably have to change the definition of antecedent and gas pressure. That would be a problem.
Yeah, and all those claims that relies on light being a wave propagating through the vacuum of space to reach the Earth, they're in real trouble with that one.
At least we got all the way through the housekeeping questions. With only 10 minutes to spare on a live show. No audio issues, no hassle. Oh, I'm really pleased. Today's going well. And it's a Friday, so everyone's in a good mood. Not that I normally mention the day, but, you know, that's how it is. Do I tempt fate by pointing out that there'll be a short after show?
Probably.
And my intention is to only have a short after show today, because for the last, basically, for all of this week, I've suggested that because I'm exhausted and doing loads and loads of editing work. But there's lots of material to edit, so, you know, that's good. But then it ends up turning into a 6-hour show. Or a 4-hour show.
6 more hours.
Because it's something new.
It seems like the...
Go on.
I was just going to say, it seems like the people with the arguments to bear usually wait until the after show to bring them forth. I don't know why.
Which is fine. You know, people don't necessarily want to get involved on a live show because at least you can prepare a bit of a response knowing that it's only going to go out to my members that day and then there's going to be a good 2 or 3 days before it reaches the public. So I think that maybe gives people a little bit of a buffer to think, if I get creamed here, I can come up with my excuses for a couple of days, maybe even put out a rebuttal video before the devastating video comes out.
So it might be a conscious thing that they're doing instead of just sitting in the, because there's the way your Discord's set up is, you know, that you have the live show queue and then you have the after show queue, and a lot of people sit in the after show queue and talk amongst themselves. I thought it was because of that mixing of the two groups that usually the arguments sprung from.
Maybe. I mean, I'm more than happy for the live show to always be as consistently educational as it is, without the necessary requirement for people to chant through what you're trying to put across to an audience. And based on the comments alone, people are grateful for it. They want good information in the live show. And because everybody's warmed up in the pre-show, it tends to be the case with, especially housekeeping being part of the show, that it's hyper-specific, hyper-focused, information-dense, every single live show. That's how it should be. Now, if the fundies were inclined to come in during the live show, they might actually have more effect because we'd have less consistency because they're trying to challenge it. Therefore, you might not necessarily, you know, consider 3, maybe a bit less years ago, people trying to argue against axial rotation. That could be an hour-long discussion. If you chew up an entire live show just arguing about axial rotation. You haven't gone through all the housekeeping questions, which is the main reason they're there, just in case that happens. You know, you want to rattle through them so that at the very least people get to hear them. And then you get into some Fundy chanting through you about his belief in non-rotation rotation that you wouldn't expect to see because you and your reference frames are ruined or whatever they've got to present. Yes, Nathan, I agree. Well, it's good to know we're all on the same page.
Sorry, I was thinking about what you said. Sorry.
Nobody's claiming a wave.
Yeah, that's what we got yesterday.
What if they knock 3 times?
Yeah, that's what we got yesterday. So if you're a member, you can check those out. I've trimmed them out so you don't necessarily have to watch all 4 hours of yesterday's after show to get the main chunks of information. Obviously, having been there, recording it and saying it, I knew pretty much where they were to go to them today and trim them out. One of them I did actually release to the public, which is just a shorts video describing the difference between acquiring a wavelength as a mathematical derivation versus a wave that you'd actually see in a photograph when there's nothing diffracting. So that was 40 seconds of clip that's gone out, but the other 4, I think, videos that are currently members only will go out over the weekend. So as it's live now, over the next couple of days, in the slots that I typically occupy with either an after show or a live show, but on a Saturday and Sunday, that's when those clips will come out for the general public. But if you're a member, you can see them now. They're all published.
Well, I think people, it would be worth someone watching that whole show, because that where you showed that a phenomenon that light is doing is not the same thing. You know, when you pointed out that the deriving the wave function from the particle distribution.
Sure, but that was a 17-minute chunk that you're describing. And yes, I did get that in its entirety. I say it's 17 minutes. It was edited down to 17 minutes, which is really what you want ideally, rather than saying to get the notion that you're describing, which I've got in a video called the end of the ether wave. That, as I say, will come out over the weekend. But that is a condensed version of what you're saying it would be worthwhile watching the entire 4 hours for. Well, that's been condensed down to 17 minutes and will be released over the weekend under the title End of the Ether Wave.
I can't wait for these shows to come back on and listen to them. And I get a hard time from my wife. But they're great when you re-listen to the whole entire show. I like the short you cut out in the clips, but when you put up the whole show, it's beautiful.
What's you got to object to? You sitting around 4 hours listening to a show that you've taken part in recording. What's the issue?
You don't understand. I got to hear it back. There's little things I miss.
Yeah, it sounds like bad news to me, Neil. You should keep your wife sweet.
She doesn't want you to have homework from school, Neil. Just don't bring any homework home.
That's hard sometimes. When, like, we went out to eat last night and I got the show on. Everybody's eating at a restaurant and I got the show in one ear and a conversation in the other ear, but I'm not hearing what they're saying because I'm listening to the show. So maybe I should step back a little bit on the re-ups.
Well, listening back to the shows is where, like, I hear most of the concessions, you know, like.
Agreed.
Like, you're in the heat of the moment, a lot of times it's not heard the point where they, you know, give up their position.
Like with it the other day. Can you play that one again, Nathan?
You mean,
I haven't got it queued up. Sorry, Neil.
You mean when an ether believer is knocking ether?
That's another title of one of the videos that will come out over the weekend. Is that why you've said that?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the shorter videos, which will come out over the weekend, although it is available to members now, is called The Ether Knocking Shop, which is Sinclair's snatching his own wig off, basically saying, well, if you knock on a door, I can derive that into a probability distribution, aka a wave function, but it's not really a wave. You're like, what, like a single quantized chunk of light hitting a photographic sensor can't be derived into a wave because it isn't one. Yeah, that's exactly our point. Well done, snatching your own wig off there, Sinclair. But that's coming out again over
Beautiful.
the weekend under the title The Ether Knocking Shop.
Huey always said, keep letting them talk. That goes for both sides.
Yeah, just let them open their incoherent pie holes is the actual just words he says.
I was trying to keep it nice.
Yeah, we're all guilty of it, though. You know, with the criticisms we'll get, regardless of who we're taking apart, is, oh, you're not letting them bullshit you enough when you cut them off and say, no, stop, that's incorrect. Now let me correct you. Well, the people who are on the side of the person that you're opposing obviously want to hear them waffle their way through their bullshit they've bought.
I love that you do that. Don't let them get it out.
That kind of works both ways. The society is programmed, as we know, to make fun of flat earthers, and conspiracy theorists is used a lot. And so when a friendship of so many years, and I think we've all experienced this, has existed, and then you go to that person and say, hey, I've been looking into something. I want your eyes on it, your ears. Let's work this thing out. Will you join me in this research? What is it? Well, it's this thing that's going around that excuse me, that the earth may actually be flat. Oh, you're not one of them, or you don't even come around me. I don't want to talk to you anymore. What the heck? Okay, so what happens is when people are programmed, they don't want to hear you go explain on something that they've been programmed to avoid, or realize maybe there's some fear involved in finding out something. So that goes both ways when someone cuts you off and doesn't want to hear things, not just this side.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. Shout out to Retro Bill for smashing the super chat right at the end of the live show. He says, great week at FED. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show.
It's indoctrination. Yeah, but chocolate. Yeah, I agree. But remember, when I was a kid, I challenged it. I didn't believe it.
Okay, so I'm going to let Chocolate say it, because he does it with his coworkers a lot. What's going on here, Chocolate?
Say again, man? I'm sorry. I just put my phone back in my pocket.
No, you have a lot of conversations with coworkers that resemble what Neil is saying. The initial, oh, I can't believe this guy's talking about flat Earth and the rejection of it. Also, what causes people to fight it when they have no vested interest, at least on the surface?
Well, like I said to you before, there's a bit of belief there. There's a bit of disagreements with you because you don't agree with consensus. I do get a little bit of that, like, you know, where everybody, you know, I mean, I'm sure we've all heard it. Oh, everybody thinks it's a ball. Why do you have to be that different one? You're the different guy.
No, but my question is, why do they resist? What causes people to resist?
I'm trying to get there, Neil. Chocolate, back and forth with me. So if someone lives in the matrix, would that be a normal response?
Yeah, well, in a matrix, yeah, they're connected to a system that's feeding them. That's why Morpheus told Neo. We usually have a certain age where we don't free minds because, you know, in that world so long, mind fights against it.
So the people I've encountered don't think they live in the Matrix, but their response tells me that they're programmed by the Matrix.
Well, it all comes down to one simple statement, and a statement that we've heard throughout. I've heard, I'm almost just 45, and I've heard it my whole life. We know it's a globe, and that we know it's a globe. It's a consensus thing. It's a knowing. You know, what are you talking about? That's what goes on in a person's head.
Brian, look at the arguments when we first started this. That was a common say. Everyone knows it's all. We all know it's a globe. Everyone knows it's a sphere. That was right from out of the gate. That's what they would say. The ballers.
Well, I'll have to maybe paraphrase if I can, Chocolate, on this point. He's brought it up many, many times. Like, how come we're 7 or 8 years into this debate, technically, since 2014? If it's a globe and they knew it was a globe, then how come for 8 years they've been doing their best to straw man, red herring, character assassinate, flat out everything? You know, how come? You know, if they know it's a globe, then how come we exist for the past 8 years?
True.
And by that notion, we could exist, but they wouldn't mess with us. They would just leave us alone. Like, oh, look at those little crazy people thinking, you know, something different than everybody else. It's like if you encountered somebody on the street who told you, I don't know, trees don't exist, right? What would you do? You'd be like, oh, that's a crazy person. I'm not going to debate that person about whether trees exist while sitting next to a tree. I'm not going to do that. I'll just leave that person alone and keep it moving. But these people, they create channels. They make a name for themselves. They got fighters. Yeah, exactly. What are you doing all that for? If everyone knows it's a globe and you're comfortable with that, sounds like a personal problem to me.
Not only that, Brian, we don't exist. We got stronger and we took over. Now they exist because we exist.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I've pondered that for a while. Like all the flat earthers I know have probably become instant or more or less instant flat earthers when that topic has came to them. Whether that's something to do with a life path beforehand, I don't know. But I can honestly say, before I found flat Earth, and I was just an ordinary heliocentric without sort of delving into it and knowing it. If somebody would have mentioned flat Earth to me, I wouldn't have reacted or jumped on a Discord channel and started fighting with these people. I just think, well, that guy thinks Earth's flat. That's great. Leave him to it. I know it's a globe. I know it's not a globe, but that's what I would have thought at the time. And just carried on with my life. I can't understand why these people, like you say, someone just said it really there. They get high rate. They create channels. They go out the way. It's like they're fighting to the death for it. And I just, I could never see myself behaving that way.
Yeah, but I did that for about 2 or 3 weeks with my brother. But as I was doing that, I was trying to prove a sphere. I was looking at everything. And then every time I came to the understanding that nothing was validated, nothing was scientifically proven. It's all just a story.
If I was to sit next
those
to...
are the story reinforcers, right? Those are the soldiers of the story, if you want to call them that, right? Because you no longer believe the story anymore. And now they have to convince you somehow or another. They got to try to find the right equation, the right formulation of words in order to make you understand that what their story is true. And if you don't, what do they tell you? Well, you just don't understand. How many times have we heard that crap?
Hearing a lot lately.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. So if someone at a bus bench said they don't believe in trees, you wouldn't talk to them?
Well, most people don't really want to talk to me at the bus bench or whatever because I don't look like one of those people.
That wasn't the question. That wasn't the question. If someone at a bus bench said trees don't exist, you wouldn't want to talk to them?
Well, maybe I'd ask them that'd be interesting. First thing I do is probably look at the tree that's around me because I'm sure there'd be a tree somewhere. And be like, okay, now that I've established that, why do you think that trees don't exist?
Well,
maybe to engage in the conversation, but I'm not gonna fight the guy and be like, "Oh, motherfucker, there's a tree there," It's like,
no,
okay.
I'm just saying, if you don't talk to him, how will you ever get to the root of the problem?
I knew it, Ted. I knew it.
He was going to branch off. I knew he was going to branch off an hour.
Good one, Brian. Good one. If you keep it up, I'm going to leave.
Yeah, leave him alone. Anyway.
Wayne, if you do that, I might get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, just a tweak.
Yeah, it's like this, right? We know it's a globe. We've always known it's a globe. These are the kind of statements that exist in the world. And these are the statements that have been fed to people through media for generations. So what you have is a situation like Neil was in, where his brother says, it's not a globe. Neil goes, it is a globe. And he goes to find all the evidence to support it, and then he finds out that it's not supporting it. And he can't support it. And he has to go, because he lives in the real world, he has to go, I can't support this nonsense, right? So then he either kind of backs away and goes, I don't know what it is, admits that it's not a globe, or I don't know what it is, or it's not a globe, so the evidence points to it being flat, whatever. Or if it's someone else, they don't do that. They can't get to that point. They must attack. And then when you don't go along with what they want, when their equations and all this other nonsense doesn't work for them, and it's not convincing evidence, because there's not evidence, they then character assassinate you as much as possible. And that's what they do. Because they can't accept reality.
This is why everyone should be a salesman. Because if you want to communicate with people, you have to ask the right questions. So knowing that the triggers are there, if you just say the right words, it's over. There's no conversation. They're going to think you're crazy. You have to establish some language first. Is it important for you too? Or how important is it for you? These kind of questions are good before you start mentioning flat earth. Like, for example, you could say something to the effect of, hey, have you realized that not everything that you've learned through education comes out to be true? Yeah, I've experienced that. Okay, like what? Well, like this or that. Okay, have you realized that not everything that's reported in the news is accurate news? Sometimes they're lies. What you going to say? Yeah, they're going to say, yeah, I've experienced that. Okay, and then you use that as a bridge. And the bridge is, we've been told that the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959. And then here comes the black swan. Well, it has to be here. It has to be physical. And it has to start blocking here. It can't be not blocking here. This is the parameters of it. And if that is a lie, just like all the other things were a lie, he's going to have a problem, or she's going to have a problem saying, wait a minute, I agreed with you that I could be lied to while living on Earth, but I don't want to enter this conversation because I don't believe this is a lie. You say, you know what? I agree with you. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, every horizon distance can be no further than, and if they don't want to accept it after they told you they can be lied to and have been lied to, and they need to be careful about what they allow in, then you don't need to talk to them anymore. That's going to haunt them forever. You won the argument by them walking away. But if they do stay, then they're going to be thankful that you talked to them.
Yeah, you're right, because they're going to be thinking about it. The horizon cannot be 30 miles away, and it'd still be a ball the size they tell us.
Well, let me just completely annihilate probably the main globe proof, which is the sun goes down behind the horizon because we're rotating away from where the sun's position is. So we see it going down behind the horizon. The horizon is not a geometric physical location. It's an optical location only that changes with elevation, optics, and weather. The sun When that reaches close to our horizontal point, we would be 15 degrees above the horizon. What happens is that what we end up seeing setting is not the sun. You never see the sun set. You see the sun mirage. That's what's on the horizon. It's not the sun, and that's official. So you're seeing a mirage melting into, or whatever way, because it changes. It doesn't always happen. Because it's a mirage, it disappears in all different ways. You're seeing a mirage disappear out over an optical location. How is that a physical thing going down behind another physical thing due to you being on a physical thing rotating away from that first physical thing? It's a completely optical thing, nothing to do with...
Especially if you're capable of zooming in on that thing and actually making it go up again. How does that happen?
Yeah, that is pre the mirage time. That's a good point, Chocolate, because as you have the GIF and that, and other people have done it, before the sun, when the sun sometimes appears to be half after setting, you can zoom to the sun and it will be not after setting, it'll be above the horizon. It's only because of the glare and the washing out of the light gave you that impression. But when you zoom with a super zoom camera, you can see that the sun is still above the horizon. But, excuse me, later on, a bit later on, when it's outside the distance that you can zoom to, that's when all you're seeing is a mirage. Because you're still actually seeing the mirage when you think that it's after half setting. But then when you zoom to it, you're seeing that the sun is not after setting. But from your point of view, with your optical ability of your eyes, you think that it's halfway down behind the horizon, when you can actually zoom to it and show it being above the horizon still. A lot of the times, depending on the weather.
Brian, that was one of the things I ran into when I started trying to find the proof of a globe. He said, when sun sets, go to a higher place and you'll see it set again. Boom, there you go. You're on a sphere.
Yeah, but that's a lot of nonsense because that's just an angular change. And that doesn't happen with the stars. It happens with the sun. I'm not sure about the moon, but it doesn't happen with the stars. So that's the problem. You know what I mean? It's like, how can the stars not do that? When the stars are said to be setting, they do something completely different than the sun. So, you know, it's the whole thing, the whole thing is based on a belief that we're on a thing that's rotating at the same rate as what we see the stars rotate. That's what the whole thing is based off of. But that is putting the sun, moon, and stars as well, not so much the moon, but the sun and the stars, that the effects we see there is due to us moving. That's where their claim comes from. But the whole thing is convoluted and hijacked. It's nonsense. The sun, we would see the sun and stars set the same way if it was a situation where we were the ones rotating. We would see the two of them set the same way because we would be rotating at the same rate as the stars. The sun is like what we see is the sun rise and set. That changes because that's not fitting the sidereal rotation that the globe is tend to have. It doesn't move at the same rate as the stars. The sun doesn't. But the point is that we would have to, because we are the ones doing the movement, then we would have to see it all happen the same way. But it doesn't. As I just pointed out, the sun can be zoomed. Chocolate just pointed out, the sun can be zoomed to when you think it's after starting to set, and you'll find it still above the horizon. And you don't see the sunset anyway. You see an optical phenomena. Go on, Nate.
Right, but that's good that they have such a ridiculous proof like that, because that's what I said. I was like, are you kidding me? Is this what they give me? Proof? Go higher and you see the sunset again, then bingo, you want to see it? That all led me to like, wow, they have no proof.
When you work with flooring, sorry, someone else talking.
Nobody did, Brian.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Okay, go on, John.
Go on, John.
I was just gonna say, there's a little bit of a you're dancing a fine edge in that because their claim of the stars are so much further. I'm doing air quotes with my fingers, further away, because you're not introducing parallax, right? Like if you're driving down the road and you're looking out at the edge of the windshield frame, and there's a mountain way off in the distance, a car that's coming towards you on the other side of the road will,
Yeah, but
it won't disappear at the same rate as the mountain.
Yeah, but you can put two objects, a close one and a far one, right? And you can give yourself a physical blockage to those two objects. Will one object be less blocked or more blocked by that physical blockage? Or you bobbing up and down behind it or moving back away? No. Like the claim of parallax doesn't explain that. There's supposed to be this physical edge to their sphere that's blocking us seeing those things. So if I can go up higher, right, because the sun is 93 million miles away in their claim, so that's not exactly close. So if I can go up higher and bring the sun back above the horizon, then how come that won't happen with the stars? It should still happen with the stars.
Right.
So claiming parallax doesn't solve that problem.
I'm addressing that, but it's still within the begging the question fallacy because the stars are so much further away. The amount of parallax won't be the same.
Yeah, but that won't stop. There is a physical blockage. That's the reason why we're told we don't see the star anymore. So if I go up higher, I should be able to see the star again because that physical blockage is not there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm after going
being
above
that they have a
physical
geometric, being that they have a geometric horizon based on observer height, right, and their radius, you would think that's how that should work. Why doesn't it
work any other way? It would be impossible to work any other way.
I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying.
I'm trying to go again, John.
I do, John, and I'm going to absolutely end it with this example. A boat at the equator will see Polaris at the zero when they're using marine sextant. An airplane at the equator will be 6 miles above the elevation or the altitude of the boat, the elevation, sorry, of the boat, will also see Polaris at 0 degrees with above the sextant. So both of them see Polaris at 0 degrees from the same point, right? So there is no way around that. Right?
All right, let me try again.
Not going to solve that one.
Okay, you stand
the killer.
Stand outside and look at a mountain in the distance or anything that's really far off, and then look at something that's closer to you. Now, get behind an obstruction to both things, and then move 2 inches to your left or right. And are they both revealed at the same rate?
Yeah, when you
or is the one closer to you?
No. What will happen is depending on if you have a bigger object, so you're bringing in visual occultation into it now, right? And that's an optical effect. These are all perspective effects that's been hijacked. If you put a road sign in front of your face, and you look above that road sign, regardless of how far away something is, you will see it. But if you bring your eyes below that road sign, you won't see it, whether it's close or far. Focusing on the stars and the sun doesn't solve the fact that there's supposed to be a physical blockage. That's why the star was said to have supposedly disappeared, because there's a physical blockage. There is a physical blockage. That's the reason.
Right, yeah, I realize that's their claim, and that's not. What I'm trying to say, though, is into the begging that question, things at further distances don't become unobscured as quickly as things at closer distance. So it's almost like you're backing their claim that the sun's closer. So you have to be careful. I ain't saying that you're doing it. I'm just saying that there's a fine edge to walk in begging that question.
No, you just made a claim there. The things at a further distance. What was the claim again you made?
That depending on where your obstruction is to you, things further away will not become unobscured as quickly as things close to you.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you any support for that?
Hold on, I just want to clarify the claim. Become unobscured.
Right. See, we're begging the question, right? That's what my warning about this was. Right. We're begging the question that it's being obscured by something. And
Oh, don't just check. Everyone's followed your point. I picked up on it, and now I have. I assume, I hope the penny dropped for everyone else before me. Maybe it didn't. Just clarify if everyone understands what you're saying, John. Does everyone understand what John's saying?
I totally understand it, but he's making a claim that has zero support.
Not make it. That may be the case, but in so doing, he's pointing out that when you assure that it's obstructed, you're begging the question of an Earth curve edge horizon obscuring it.
But I'm not stating that it's my point being, the argument I'm having with John is that regardless of how close or far away an object is, if you use the same thing to obstruct both of them from your view, then when you take it away, you can see both of them again. That's the point.
Which is a red herring to my point, but still even more to the point is that the begging the question part of this, you got to be careful when you're trying to put this forward. I understand your point about the zero line. I do.
Well, I didn't beg the question.
But hold on. What is parallax? Do you know what parallax is?
I know what parallax is. You brought it into it. I didn't beg the question at all. What I stated was the sun and stars don't behave the same at the horizon. When you rise higher, you can see the sun again, right? The reason you can probably see the sun again when you rise higher is a part of the reason is that you don't have the horizontal glare going on. But the point is the sun doesn't set at the horizon like the stars do. The two do set differently. So when I rise in elevation and I can see the sun back above the horizon, how come that doesn't happen with the stars? Because I've removed the physical blockage that was caught within their belief. I've removed the physical blockage by raising higher. I've extended that blockage.
I addressed that with parallax, and you said I didn't have proof for parallax, and I explained to you how it worked.
Parallax doesn't address that. We're talking about something being above or below a physical blockage. That's not going to be addressed by parallax. Parallax is something in the distance. If we have a road sign and a mountain in the distance, the road sign is nearer. I'll pass the road sign and I can see the road sign fly past me, but the mountain would still appear to be in the same position it was in, even though I have changed my angle to the mountain. But that's a horizontal azimuth type of.
And you're ignoring how that can be applied to the begging the question part of it being obscured.
Parallax is not. It's not a vertical thing.
No, not the overcome. The obstruction, Brian.
Yeah, I take the obstruction away, and the thing should be there again. That is the basics of it. Parallax does not solve that problem.
Did you say parallax is not a vertical thing?
Yeah, it's not a vertical thing.
That's not true.
So when something is blocked by a physical... Go on, Chocolate.
No, hold on, Chocolate. Go ahead, Brian.
So when something is blocked by a physical blockage, right, because it went below it, or the physical blockage came above it, when I rise above the physical blockage, I should be able to see it again. Parallax is a horizontal thing that happens on the azimuth. That's the only real-world example of parallax that there is. There is no other. What vertical parallax example can you give?
I'll give you an example. Say 100 yards away, there's a 6-foot fence. And then another mile past that, there's an 8-foot man. I'm standing at 7 foot high. Can I see that man?
No, because of visual occultation. That is not parallax. That's visual occultation.
Well, I'm above the height, but you just said if you come above the height, you should be able to see it if it's a physical block.
What height is the man again? 8 foot. You're 7 foot. Well, you will be able to see the man in the distance. You will see some of the man in the distance. If you're able to see over that, you will see some of the man in the distance.
No, you won't. He'll be too small to see. He'll get smaller with distance.
Well, that's an angular size change thing then.
Of course it is.
That's not parallax. That's not parallax.
Oh, my God.
Parallax is not angular size change.
Never mind.
I won't never mind. Parallax is not angular size change, John.
I was not addressing parallax. I was addressing your claim that if you rise above something, you'll be able to see.
Well, if I
and that's not true. If you go up, if you take perspective into account,
Hold on,
that's
you're
not
both stepping on each other.
changes
Just one second. One or the other. Who's going to concede? Because you're both stepping on each other. I can't decipher what you're saying.
I'll leave John speak. I'll speak after him.
I wasn't addressing parallax in that statement. I was addressing that you said when you go up in height above something, you'll be able to see things behind it. And I pointed out that 8-foot man wouldn't be visible. Now you're saying that's because of perspective. That's true. But that goes against your initial statement about being above something, being able to see behind it.
No.
But hold on. Isn't Go ahead, man.
What you're doing is you're trying to hijack a real world visual effect and try and relate that to the sky. If I'm 7 foot and the fence is 6 foot and the man is 8 foot, then once he is not so far away that his angular size is gone below 0.02 degrees, because if he's at the point where his angular size is too small, then whether there's a 6 foot post there or not won't make any difference. I won't be able to see him. That's angular size change. That's not parallax. If I can see over the obstruction, then I'll be able to see the person. As long as he's not gone too far away, where he's gone to the point of where his angular resolution, where he's gone into the angular resolution limit.
So you think that if you're 100 yards away from a 6 foot fence and you go up to 8 feet and that guy's 100 yards past that fence, you'll be able to see him?
Yeah, absolutely be able to see him. What you brought into it was angular size change. His size would have to. If he's too small to see, then whether the fence is there or not, I won't be able to see him. That's the point I'm making. So angular size change is not parallax. You were supposed to give me an example of vertical parallax.
And I did give you an example of vertical parallax with the mountain. Yes, I did.
Go on, give it to me again then. With the mountain, right? You use a fence and a person and a man in the distance.
No, I use horizontal parallax on that one. I'm sorry. I'll give you vertical parallax.
Okay.
You can look at any device, because parallax isn't a horizontal or vertical thing. It's just an angle thing. But if you don't look directly onto a meter, you don't get and it has a dip switch dial, you won't get the correct reading of that meter because of parallax. So it doesn't matter if it's horizontal, vertical, any which way you want to slice it, parallax is universal. It's an angle thing. It's not.
I just have to point out, I don't know what this thing is you're talking about. You'd have to give me a photograph of it or something. I was thought you were going to give me a real world, like everyday thing. We don't every day look at these meters. So a real world everyday thing of vertical parallax.
You do. You drive a car every day, don't you?
I drive a car, yes.
Well, I guess you might have digital on your steering column. Do you? Or do you have the dip switches?
What's a dip switch? Are you talking about
the little
fuel gauge and stuff?
The little stick that turns when you press on the gas and it goes around the RPMs?
I have a moving part, like a moving arc, like a protractor.
Tachometer.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting in the passenger seat and you see it and it looks like they're going 85 and you're sitting behind the driver's seat and you realize you're going 75, that's parallax.
That's horizontal. That's still a horizontal view. That's not vertical.
Are you saying that couldn't happen vertically? Think about that, Brian.
I'm asking you to give me the example of vertical parallax. I'm willing to concede if I'm wrong, but I cannot come up with any example of vertical parallax.
Just take that meter, right? Take it out of your car and put it out in front of you, and then raise your height about 4 feet, and it's the same principle.
If you're not looking horizontally at it, you may not be able to determine. If you raise it above you, you'll be looking at the underneath of the movement of the arm and the panel behind it. So you'll be looking between the space, at the space between the arm and the panel behind it, right? But how is that parallax? How is that vertical parallax?
It is vertical parallax.
But how is that vertical parallax?
Look, so when the meter, let me look at, say at 30 miles per hour for the person in the right-hand seat, since it's at horizontal, there'll be no parallax for them to say that it looks like it's going 35. So there's no horizontal parallax there because of the angle. But now if you had a convertible and they were 3 foot above you, standing on your shoulders, it would look like you were going 15.
Sorry, this is not making. I'm not. Someone standing on your shoulders. I'm not following this example. Can you not give us an example where we see it in everyday life? Like not. Can you give us that out in the real world kind of thing? Not just looking at, because this is an angle. It's an angle view to something, but you're after bringing in things into it that don't happen in. Like we don't have people standing on people's shoulders trying to look at these things.
Okay. Yeah,
You know what
I mean, I'm just trying to explain to you that it has nothing to do with horizontal and vertical. It has to do with angles to things, and you've accepted that, but now you're saying that it still only happens in the horizontal.
Yeah, because it's a visual effect, a horizontal visual effect. That's why the mountain appears to still be there, even though I go past the signpost.
Citation, please.
Citation of what?
That it is only a horizontal visual effect.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I can find where it's just state horizontal, but I might just give the example I'm giving. Yeah. One second. We still have to get to where this supposedly solves the problem of the stars and the sun. We didn't get to that yet.
Yeah, that's
How
why
much
I wanted
time
to
do you
add.
down?
Sorry, one more time, El Bariqua.
How much time do you spend going up and down?
You don't.
Because there's no way to notice.
But in the example, it's going up and down, right?
Yeah, but he says he only noticed horizontal parallax. Is because not 100% of the time you're definitely traveling horizontally. But if you were probably to live like in the ocean, going up and down, water, I'm pretty sure you'll notice some kind of parallax in the water. Just with obstructions and stuff like that?
What you're talking about is a violation of the model in the first place, because the sun and the stars' movement cannot go below the horizontal plane. It's a violation of the celestial sphere. Everything has been mapped out. All of the GPs of the celestial bodies, they meet the horizontal plane at 90-degree angle. So nothing can go below the horizon line.
Right, I wasn't talking about the parallax in stars. I was talking about in other objects, maybe. But yeah, I can see how in stars you wouldn't have that.
Can I segue into an advert?
An advert? Yeah, sure, if you want to plug something.
Please join the Hammer live today at 5 p.m. Eastern for a Refracted Philosophy show. That's 10 p.m. our time, Nathan, and 11 p.m. for Arwen. Thank you.
The Hammer Live, is that the name of the YouTube channel?
It's Refracted Philosophy now, but it's the Hammer. He's a mod from Betty Server. It's his show.
So, a mod from Betty Server called The Hammer on a channel called Refracted
Philosophy.
And that's at 11 p.m.
That's in Discord, I think, not YouTube.
Oh, it's not broadcast. It's just for people to join in Discord. Okay, cool.
Well, there will be a live show, but we have got our own Discord server. I think the tagline is "Thoughts that deviate from the mainstream."
Cool.
What time is that in America, or do you know?
That's 5 p.m. Eastern, New York time.
You're somehow too quiet and distorting, by the way, Paul. Just so you know.
Sorry, I'll have a look at my gain.
Got plenty of leeway to turn you up if you can turn your gain down.
How about this?
One more time.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's much better. Cool, yeah. Hopefully that doesn't stall everything. They've plugged the show. Where were we? Brian, you were annoyed about something.
So
I'm after. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, is there?
I think Alberika was trying to get a word in, actually, Brian, and 10th. Just one sec. Go ahead, Alberika.
So vertical parallax is called stereoscopic parallax, which mostly happens in planes. But that's, again, I'm not sure if that I'm addressing what was going on.
Well, what are they looking at with this vertical parallax that they're claiming is vertical parallax?
Hold on. He's kind of backed my claim, you know. But what I'm saying, though, is when you assume that there is an obstruction, then in your mind, you will try to justify that as parallax, if you know anything about it.
But isn't he addressing a claim that does assume obstruction? Isn't he talking about the obstruction, which is supposed to be the Earth curve?
No, they're talking about things that's supposed to be obscured by it. That's what,
but wasn't he
that's what I'm saying. That's,
all right, my bad. I'll let Brian speak.
No, you're right, Chocolate. You're right. I'm talking about the obstruction that's supposed to be blocking it. Well, how come I could see it before the obstruction blocked it? If parallax is the reason I can't see it when I go above the obstruction. See,
say that again. I don't understand that question at all.
If I could see it before the obstruction blocked it, how come when I go above the obstruction can I not see it because of parallax? Where was parallax blocking me from seeing it the first time?
Well, that doesn't make any sense, Brian. So, say it again, because I don't think you're hearing what you're saying.
I am. When the blockage got in the way of me seeing these two objects, right? Before the blockage got in the way, I could see both of them. You're saying that if I go above the blockage, that I won't see the one in the distance. You're saying that the claim can be made as due to parallax. Why was parallax blocking me from seeing it before the blockage got in the way?
What? That doesn't make any sense, Brian.
It does, because it's the same situation. We're resetting back to the same situation where the blockage is not in the way.
Let me paraphrase to you. Before the blockage was in its way, how could I see it if the blockage wasn't in its way, Brian? That doesn't make any sense.
No, John, don't speak condescending to me now. No, we don't need that, right? There was no blockage. I could see both of them. The blockage came. I could see none of them. I take away the blockage, and I can only see one of them. That's what you're saying, and you're saying it's due to parallax. How come I could see both of them before the blockage?
If you assume it's a physical blockage, you can justify that with parallax.
You can't, because I could see both of them before the blockage. I removed the blockage, and now I can't see both of them. That's what you're claiming.
I just demonstrated it to you horizontally with the guy on the fence, and now you're not wanting to listen to it. I don't want to argue with you.
You didn't demonstrate it with the guy on the fence.
I don't think it's a good way of addressing this argument.
That wasn't a demonstration. Your guy with the fence, that wasn't a demonstration. That you were trying to claim angular size change, which wasn't the argument.
May I try to help? Let me see if I get what Brian is saying and what John is saying.
I put a 1 second just for Nathan. I put the Merriam-Webster parallax definition, and I made a point of choosing one that would be more support John, and I'll tell you why I did in a minute. So it's in the Master D there if you want it, Nathan. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it
You
in
want me
my
to put it up? Sorry,
memory
just,
here.
do you want me to put it up?
There you go.
Yeah, they've time to say his thing or whatever.
I'm trying to keep the thought fresh. I keep forgetting as we take longer. But I'm hearing Brian saying, where is the claim of parallax before? But it only comes afterwards. But if it's a real world thing, why isn't it there in all of the examples he's giving? Why does it only appear later?
When there's obstruction involved, why is it only an issue when obstruction's involved? Is that what you're saying?
Well, based on what Brian just said and your response, and I'm trying to figure out what each of you are saying, okay? Brian is saying you're citing parallax, and Brian is saying cited in all three situations. Why is it only being cited at this other situation? So what were the three situations?
The stereoscopic, somebody just cited stereoscopic parallax was vertical parallax. That was already cited, Tim.
No, I'm talking about blockage and no blockage and going up. Why doesn't parallax exist no matter what time of day, no matter what you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I see. I see Brian saying that. Now, Brian, finish your point on that, having this as a backdrop.
Yeah. If I could see, let's say, a smaller object, and let's say I see a closer object and a further object, and I put a blockage in front of my eyes, and I raise above that blockage, will I not see both of them again if I could see them before the blockage?
How close is this blockage to your eye first? Because this is very crude.
The point is, before the blockage, I could see both of them. When I remove the blockage or go above the blockage, there's no reason for me not to be able to see both of them again.
So it's 7 foot high, right? If you're at 7 foot high, the fence is at 6 foot high. When you go up where you're at 7 foot, there's no reason you can't see behind the 6 foot fence.
Not right behind it, because I have 6 foot in the way, not right behind it.
Right behind it. Now you're getting into parallax. There's right behind it.
Yeah, but that's right behind it.
There's different.
Hold on, Brian. Hold on. Everyone stop. I want to hear that come through. Can you say that again, John?
Right, you said right behind it, and that has to deal with your angle to the object, your angle to the obstruction, the distance separating them. That's why I said it was such a dangerous way to approach this topic.
Okay, how far away is the thing? Is it within my angular resolution limit?
That's a fair question to follow up with, Brian. However, I do want you to just acknowledge his point in the main regard to the begging the question. So that's where I stepped in last time.
I understand his point, but he's actually not talking about parallax. I'm going to take it apart now. That's not parallax, John.
Yes. Okay.
No, it's not.
So it is not vertical. It's physical. Okay.
It's visual occultation, also known as photographic occultation. That's not parallax.
Define occultation.
Something occulting your view.
Define occult.
Occult? I don't know how to... Occult, like a block. I don't know how to define occult. I don't know the definition. Do you want me to get that definition?
Yeah,
if you know the definition, you just had it. Block from your view, yeah. So if there's a 6 foot fence and there's something close behind that, I may not. But am I looking over the fence?
That would depend on how close you are to the obstruction, right? That would depend on how close to the obstruction.
Hang on. The obstruction is the fence, right? So I'm standing there. The fence comes above my eye line, right, and it blocks me seeing the two objects I could see. I go above that 6 foot fence. What you're stating is that I won't be able to see because the fence is in the way. Well, how come I can see the sun then?
Dependent upon your angle. So those objects, it can still block physical blocking your view.
Just Brian, too keen to interrupt. I want to hear what he says, though, Brian.
Well, you should hear what I have to say then as well, Nathan, afterwards, because I'm going to point out where you.
I'm listening to both of you.
Go ahead, Brian. Say it again.
No, go ahead, Don.
No, I don't want. I don't
First, you can't stop talking over one another. Now you refuse. Come on.
I just think there's like a misunderstanding in this whole thing.
I agree,
don't-
Chocolate.
Dependent, all right, well, I'll say it again. Dependent upon the distance from you to the obstruction, the distance from you to the thing you're trying to see, and the relative distance of that obstruction between the two of you, it can be true that prior to the obstruction being there, you've seen something, you put the obstruction in, and you raise in height just above that obstruction and still not be able to see it because the angle isn't there for you to see it.
Okay, I'm going to point out how this is a false equivalency, and it's not parallax. What you're talking about is visual occultation, right? But once you raise above the object that's blocking you, you could see both. See, we're talking about the sun and stars. So within the heliocentric claim, the sun is closer than the stars that we're seeing. That's the claim. And you said that when you go higher, or I might have pointed out that when you go higher, you can bring the sun back above the horizon, but that won't happen with stars, and you claim there's parallax. And you brought it to the point of using, you brought it to the point of using this post in your way. But if I'm seeing over the post, then I can see over the post. So if I have two objects in the distance, one closer and one further, once they're within my angular resolution limit, then once I can see over the post, I can see them.
No, that's not true. You cannot see everything behind the fence just because you're slightly higher than the fence.
No,
that's not true.
See, this is where the point where you bunch yourself. Because what you're claiming is that more than likely the closer object will be blocked, not the further one. That's visual occultation.
It depends on your angle. I did not say that. You did.
Yeah, but the point you're making is right behind the fence, I can't see. Of course I can't see because the fence is blocking that portion of my view. But for you to use this example and say it's blocking, that's how stars get blocked out, then it would be impossible to see the sun. The sun would also get blocked out. Because you're missing the point.
No, you're missing the.
No, you're missing the point.
It was visual occultation, and it had nothing to do with angles. Or it was.
I didn't say it had nothing to do with angles.
Well, hold on. I can't remember exactly what you said, but do you know what parallax is? And
yes, I do.
Can you define it?
I put a definition from Merriam-Webster, one that would seem to support you, and I know it doesn't, but it seems to support you. Put it into Master D.
Well, let's just read it out. It's the apparent displacement or the difference in apparent direction of an object as seen from two different points, not on a straight line with the object. Well, that was a showstopper.
Yeah, it didn't mention horizontal in that.
Yeah.
It did not mention horizontal in that.
Yeah, but they're just detailing the effect, John. That's what they're doing.
Right, they're detailing the effect without using the word horizontal. Right.
Yeah, they're detailing the effect without the use of the word horizontal. In the real world, we only have horizontal examples of this.
No,
Brian,
we usually
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Go on, Chocolate.
I don't know. Maybe hopefully this will clear it up, at least for me, because I'm confused right now. But so if a glober were to tell you, okay, the sun just set, but if I go higher, I can see the sun again. Why is that their response?
Because they're going above the blockage that was causing the sun to set on their model. So they move above the blockage and they can see it again.
I stepped in too quick. You did say on their model. I jumped in because I thought you wouldn't add that. My bad.
Yeah, but I did say glober, right? Obviously, they would have that model. So, okay, so they've gone above the obstruction, the physical sphere edge, which is what they said the sun just went behind, and that's why they couldn't see it. Now they've gone above that, and now they can see it. So your point right now is that the stars don't work the same way, right?
Yeah, that doesn't happen with the stars.
Are the stars claimed to be at the same distance as the sun in their model? So, like we're addressing it within the model. Like this was my whole problem to begin with it.
Yeah,
And
no, John,
you're just acting like I'm crazy for pointing this out.
Yeah, how come parallax wasn't stopping me from seeing the stars before the blockage?
Are they the same distance away as the sun in that model?
No, they're not the same distance away from the sun in that model. We know they're not.
Then why would you expect? Then why would you expect to see them reappear at the same rate as the sun? Is my question.
Because they were there before the blockage. If you raise above the blockage, you should see them again.
And at what rate should this happen, according to you?
The rate at which you can see.
Doesn't that depend on how far away everything is?
Yes. Thank you, Neil.
How does it, if you can see the sun and stars and you're on a globe, or let's just say you see the sun and stars and a blockage comes in front of you, when you raise above that blockage, why can't you see the stars again? Because they're far away. They were far away when you could see them in the first place. There's no difference. They're still just as far away.
All right, so we're going to have to use two objects in this example then, right?
Well,
so you have
that's why I call the other one equivalent.
A guy that's 9 feet tall, right? Behind the 6-foot fence. And then you have a guy that's 6 foot tall. And you're standing just with your eyes blocked by the fence, right? When you lower your head, are you expecting them to disappear at the same rate?
A 6 foot tall guy and a 9 foot tall guy.
Right. One of them, I'm sorry, I didn't add this in. It's important to be specific. I understand that. The 7 foot guy's at 10 foot away. The 6 foot guy is at 100 yards away. As you lower down, will they both disappear at the same rate?
The answer's no.
No,
good point.
As you lower, yeah, but once again, that's not parallax, that's visual occultation. Once you lower down,
Hold on, stop. I've got to stop. Hold on, Brian. I'm sorry. Now he's introduced that as an example with two different things. What you're describing between those two different men at different heights at different distances is parallax. I can't get around that now. He's given that as an example.
It's visual occultation, Nathan. It's not parallax. It's called photographic or visual.
I know you're saying that, and it is described that way also. I agree. Hold on. I don't want you to think I'm disagreeing with you. I do agree with you. However, what John's saying is, yeah, you can call it visual occultation, but what you're actually describing in the most literal terms is parallax. And I can't disagree with him now. He's given that as an example. Now it's cemented in my mind. Yeah, he's right. It's parallax.
It's called visual occultation. They don't call that parallax.
That may be. I'm not disagreeing with you.
The point is, yeah, I don't care. You can call it whatever you want. The point is that the 9 foot man is further than the 6 foot man from the fence. And I'm 6 foot and I drop my head down below the fence. Which one is going to disappear fastest? Because of my angle to the tall person, they're going to disappear fastest when my eye goes below the blockage. Right? They're going to, what happens is because my angle to them, my angle to the, because this is all in the horizontal, my angle to the 9 foot man at the distance, my angle to that person changes. So they're going to appear to drop faster than the person in the foreground. But when I bring my eyes back up above the blockage, I can see them both again. That's my point. That's the point. The blockage is taken away.
Brian.
Hooray!
Number one, I agree with you.
Not parallax.
Stop, Brian. Chill. You're right. And up until this point, I haven't stepped in at all because you both agree, but you've both got points that I can firmly get behind. So you're not wrong. I don't think John's saying you're wrong in your description. What he is saying is, based on that assumption, you've got varying distances, and he's calling it parallax. But let's just ignore that for a minute, even though, again, I think he's right. I know you disagree and say it's visual occultation, so I'm going to call it that just to stop arguments. So because of this visual occultation, you've then got the assumption of them begging the question of the greater distance in their model and explaining it that way. And all John's trying to say is, when you've got this visual occultation of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon and a heliocentric model with their distances implied, the varying distances may bring them back at a different rate. Now, without an actual visual demonstration in front of me right now, which I haven't got, I can't visualize it enough to say who's wrong when you say once you start to bring them back, the rate that they'll both pop into view will be the same. But I don't see it as being any different to the reverse as you're making them disappear at a different rate because of, I hate to say it because I've got to, parallax in terms of the rate that they'll change at varying distances. So you've both got great positive points, and I don't think there's a disagreement other than in the language of what's being described in the term parallax. Other than that, you're both right.
Yeah, but see, I understand John's claim. I understand what he's saying. I understand the claim he's making because I understand he can call it parallax. I don't mind. I call it vertical parallax if you want to call that vertical parallax. What I call and what I've learned is visual or photographic occultation. What blocks you from seeing the objects is the obstruction. When you take the obstruction away, you can see both of them again.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Now, the point I'm making is John said that due to parallax, that when you raise higher on a globe, that you might bring the sun back, but you may not bring the stars back. No, because you will still bring the stars back. It's just your angle to will be slightly different, but you still bring them back.
Yeah. Now I'm picturing it with, although I haven't got this set up physically, I can visualize what's occurring. And if you've got the Neil deGrasse Tyson's beach ball in front of your view of anything, regardless of the distance, as you lower the beach ball out of your view, it's not blocking it anymore. And you're saying, although at a grander scale, you'll have the same effect. If the hill of Earth curve's getting in the way and you go higher, you're effectively taking that hill from your view. John's response is to say, no, but dependent on the distance of the obstruction and the thing in the far background, you may not bring it back. That seesaw may not have enough angle change as you raise versus the massive distance of the star against the obstruction. So again, without being able to push the stars out to the infinite distance that they'll use in their response, I can't verify John to be wrong, and I understand how you are right when you describe physically moving an obstruction, regardless of what it may be, out of your line of sight. The thing that's being blocked by it should come back, right? So I get both of them. I also understand the danger that John says is in place when you've got this as an assumption based on the rebuttal having them at vast distances with parallax not bringing them back. I also understand that too. So very, very a fine discussion, gentlemen.
Brian,
the reason I say it's dangerous. Hold on a second, because I just want to respond to this. The reason I say it's dangerous is because you're not addressing the claim of a physical obstruction directly, like you are in the Black Swan. You're addressing the stars and their relation to that claim to be physical obstruction. That's why I said it's dangerous.
Brian, you should make one of them diagrams.
Just let him respond, Neil.
Yeah, I will, Neil. I will make one. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things that has been misunderstood here. Number one, if we're talking about the globe model, the globe is rotating at a sidereal rate, which is the rate of the stars. So when you raise higher, if you can see the sun again, because the sun is not, its rotation, it's not moving at the solar rotation rate, it's moving at the sidereal rotation rate. So when you raise higher, if you can see the sun, you can definitely see the stars again. That's number one. Number two.
Hold on, stop. Let me just clarify what you're saying. So you're saying it's because effectively the reason of the movement in the heliocentric model is the turning Earth. You're essentially only turning you with respect to the obstruction, and that's going to massively vary based on your height because it's the obstruction moving with respect to the background in the heliocentric model. Am I correct in that reassessment of what you've just said?
It's moving at the same rate as the globe rotates at the same rate as the stars, sidereal.
Gotcha. Okay.
So how could you go higher and not be able to see the stars again?
Okay,
that would mean that
I follow.
They'll be moving at a different rate.
Yeah, I understand. You said there was another point.
Yes, because I took this out I destroyed this earlier, but we ended up arguing on. When you are in a boat at the equator, take an angle to Polaris, you will get 0. When you're in a plane 6 miles above, take an angle to Polaris, you will get 0. So there is no argument that they can make. You're getting a 0 from 2 different points, one 6 miles above the other.
accepting the argument that I just gave.
Right. Go ahead, John.
So,
hold on,
You
Brian.
do-
Perfect.
go on.
You can't help giving him that segue. Let him have it. Go ahead, John.
Because the distances between the objects claimed to be obscured will not be unobscured at the same rate.
The mariner in the boat and the pilot 6 miles above him are both getting zero at the same time. The reason the mariner is claimed to get zero is because there's an Earth curve blockage. What's blocking the pilot from seeing Polaris above the horizon when they're seeing it on the horizon?
No, they claim it is the horizon. No, I'll answer you. It wasn't rhetorical.
And the mariner get a zero.
Don't leave it as rhetorical. They say the Earth curve edge horizon's getting in the way.
Yeah, for the mariner, the claim is that the Earth curve horizon is getting, the globe's geometric horizon is getting in the way, causing the mariner to see Polaris on the horizon at a 0 point when they're at the equator. The pilot is 6 miles directly above, at the zenith of the mariner. That pilot also gets Polaris at 0 on the horizon. So what's blocking, how could the same Earth curve be blocking both? You can't.
Right. So to John, based on that, John, so if you're going to say that they're going to use a defense that has a claim of parallax, would you not agree that we'd have to see some parallax? There's no parallax in these stars, John. They're all at varying distances, so you're going to put that as a potential defense they might have. They're going to need some parallax to assert in the first instance, aren't they?
Uh-oh.
He's thinking about it, I think.
He is thinking about it. That's why I'm not interrupting. This was a fantastic conversation. I feel privileged to have listened to you two this
Hold on.
afternoon.
We're talking about objects in relation to a physical obstruction. And this was my point initially, is that it's no different than the argument that was being had 4 years ago, where we were saying, we can see this, why can we see it? And I think that's the danger in it. Now, if you do it right, you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't do this. I'm just saying there is a danger in other people not understanding you and putting it forth without understanding all the nuances to it.
Absolutely. And I totally agree. Yes, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So when you're putting it to Brian, I appreciate his frustration because he's thinking, no, I know what I'm talking about. And your objection wouldn't necessarily be, which is why it's been great for the audience, directly put towards Brian, although he's arguing the contrapoint to yours when you put that objection up. You know, he's frustrated because he just wants to make his actual point clear. However, yeah, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and there is the very real danger that people will fall into that begging the question trap without realising it if they try and employ it without fully understanding these arguments and the nuances that surround them. However, I will, just because it's where I'm going to lean slightly towards Brian in this regard, sorry, John, you've got to show some parallax, haven't you? If you're a heliocentric believer and you employ that.
No.
All John said was be careful.
Not you, Neil.
You would, within their assumption, right, of these parallel sun rays, you would, no, you wouldn't. Or not parallel light from the stars, right? They're at infinite distance, or they claim near infinite. You're not going to see parallax like that.
No, you can't. No, that's Weasley. They don't say they're infinite distance until they're hijacking flat Earth elevation angles. They're at set distances based on Kepler's third law, which would mean they should have parallax, but don't.
Right, and how much parallax would they have at those distances, though?
Some.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Well, now that means.
That means.
Oh, everyone's getting triggered. Go ahead, John.
Look, if that's true, right, and we stick to this, and someone's able to show a guy on a boat who's got Polaris at 0 and a guy in a plane that's 6 miles above, and he has Polaris at 0.0002, do we now have to concede that there's a physical spear edge blocking?
No, only because Brian's specifically made it clear that it's got to be vanished and then brought back, as opposed to a differential of angle to the horizon at altitude, because there's various different things that you could account for it prior to it disappearing. However, you were almost there, and I was smiling while you were saying it, because exactly, unless I can come up with that quick response here on the cutting edge, or Brian was the one doing it more likely, then the person who that's put to would be would be screwed, would they not?
Right. But the bigger thing is how do we know it doesn't happen? We're basing this on a model that is a flat Earth model anyway, but let's just ignore that because everybody else does.
Yeah, that's the overarching point. And well, yeah, typically you might just be able to say that, or more often than not, me, or I'd be the one doing that as the cheap get out, because that is the overarching point. But in this specific instance, I think Brian's in the all clear at the end of this, John.
Well, what I'm saying though is how do you know that Polaris is at 0 and the guy in the boat has it at 0 and those angles are exactly the same?
You're a man after my own heart. I hoped you'd go there next. Yeah. So what you're essentially now doing is challenging Brian's statement. That's what you're actually doing. Yeah. You're just putting the claim to the test, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, that's what this is about, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you got there. This might be the right note to round out on, depending on Brian's response. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, bubble sextants exist because celestial navigation works equally in the air as
no. Stop.
So consequently,
no, stop. No. Not bubble sextants. The visual occultation, use my words carefully, of the star at a low altitude versus a high altitude. Forget about how bubble sextant works. That's the actual claim, Brian.
No, but what he said to me is, how do I, like, he's questioning, is the pilot actually getting a 0 while the mariner is actually getting a 0? That's what John is questioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is why I brought up the bubble sextant. The whole point is that it does work because the distances between the pilot and the GP, when they take a measurement to something that's at their horizon that's at 0,
I get that.
Then the distances fit, whether they're up in the air or whether they get the same down on the ocean.
Feel free to call John a complete bastard. So hold on, John, Brian. You can call him a complete bastard. What he's done is he's put you in a position where either you get your ass up in a plane and have someone below you checking that it's not a different measurement, which it may very well be based on the, not going to bandy my words, but atmospheric conditions, for want of a better word, at the ground level. So he may very well be right, but without you being able to actually show it either way, he's got you to a point where you can't go any further. Now that's
no,
a bit of a...
maybe you're not listening.
Just let me finish. Just let me finish.
All right.
It doesn't alter. Hold on, Brian. It's done that so that he can make his point with a stamp on it. Yeah, you can't go. I'll just tell you, you can't go anywhere based on what he's just said. You can't. Trust me. I'll argue about it with you later if you disagree. However, it puts a rubber stamp on his point. The danger is then highlighted, which I'm hoping John will now reiterate because I'm giving him permission to.
When will I get a chance to speak?
As soon as he's rubber stamped his point again, because that's the end of his point.
Right.
It's just a danger in begging the question. And like Brian, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been arguing with these people. But if someone else is going to try to do this argument, there's pitfalls all around them that they may not be seeing. And, you know, all it takes is that one quick-witted response, and you've cemented the globe Earth in someone's mind. And that can be a dangerous thing. That's all I wanted you to see.
Yeah.
My point.
Yeah, but what you said to me about the airplane means that celestial navigation using a bubble sextant doesn't exist.
Agreed. He's right. It does, Brian, you're right. Stop. You are absolutely correct, and I do not disagree. But what he's saying is, if somebody in the moment with someone that isn't you says, "Well, check this out. I actually happen to have a guy who've passed over a boat on a plane, and check it out. They both took measurements, and they've got a different measurement. What say you?" Now, you'd be able to point out that it makes no difference. It's got to work in a particular way. All the things that you would refute that with. But what John's saying is, for the guy who's not as on the cutting edge as you, that's where they're screwed if they don't know the argument really, really well. And he's put you in a position where, unless you can say, well, actually, I've got an example where there is a guy passing over a boat in an aeroplane to show that they're not different, you can't add any further input to bolster your rebuttal to his point. That's all I'm trying to get at. I wasn't trying to stammer your point, which I agree with.
What can I say? 1 second. One second, Kent. Yeah, I can. I can show them parallel light rays onto a globe where the person's official diagrams and official explanations from the globe, from the heliocentric side, show the reason the person gets a 0 to Polaris is because Earth curve is in their way, whereas the airplane is 6 miles above the person in the boat, so that same Earth curve cannot be in their way.
Oh, fair play. No. As I say, this has been a privilege to listen to this conversation, Brian, and it's only just occurred to me, now you've pointed it out, what you're saying. Take the diagrammatical orthographic Muppet Vision representation of this with parallel light, you go up higher and it's suddenly not obscuring with the parallel light rays coming in. So, very, very valid, Brian. I'm lost for words.
That's what I thought he was saying from the beginning. That's all. It's like this parallel thing, this parallax thing is not. I don't think that's what he means, but it's good that we hashed it out, I guess.
May I give an input?
As long as it doesn't detract from John or Brian's point, yeah.
No, actually, I've covered it before. I've cited it before. There's the Nautical Almanac, and there's the Air Almanac. And sailors love the Air Almanac because it's easier to use. Brian's point is 6 miles up in an airplane. They are using the Air Almanac. But 6 miles down on the boat, the navigator's using the same Air Almanac. How can they have different coordinates?
Right. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, smashing the thanks button and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.